fans here today for the jersey retirement ceremony. I want to share something with you. Our first recognition of this guy's ability and achievements was in 1968, over 46 years ago. My, oh my, how the time goes by. And we had a parade, and there was a sports writer who became a good friend of mine, and he's a very good sports writer for the Daily Oklahoman by the name of Frank Boggs, was covering the story. And he was at the parade. And in his article the following day, he said, I was watching the parade, and as I looked around, I was the only one watching the parade. Everybody else was in it. And I want to introduce now another very good sports writer that's going to lead us through the program today. He was raised in Norman. He went to work for the Daily Oklahoman in 1991. And he has been named the Sports Writer of the Year. I hear 6 times, but it seems like it should be more than that. Ladies and gentlemen, our master of ceremony today, Barry Trammell.
Well, thanks, Dean. He started telling sports writer stories, and I thought, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But appreciate the invitation. Quite an honor for a kid that was born in Oklahoma. You know, Binger claims Johnny Bench, and you guys actually have the stake. But you know that all of Oklahoma claims Johnny Bench, too, whether you live in the Panhandle, you live in Grand Lake, or whether you live in Little Dixie, or whether you live in Norman. You know, you talked about 1968 as the first time you honored him. The thing that I still remember about Johnny Bench's rapid rise to fame was the old This Is Your Life show with Ralph Edwards, which is sort of supposed to honor somebody, you know, sort of a life history of somebody that's been alive a long time and's got, you know, tons of friends. Johnny, you couldn't have been 25 years old when they did Johnny Bench, This Is Your Life, on Ralph Edwards in the early 70s. But I remember my dad hollering at me and saying, son, you got to come and see this. We got to watch this. So know that all of Oklahoma claims Johnny, but also know that we know where he's from, and he's from Binger. But he's the reason we're here today. And I did some thumbing through research and then talked to some people. Dean mentioned 68 as the first time that Johnny came back to be honored. I have found at least once a decade and multiple times in some decades when Johnny Bench has come back to Binger to raise money or to encourage the kids of Binger, spoke at a commencement once, been 50 years since he left town, hasn't forgotten where he's from, and continues to give back to the place that turned him into the ball player and the man that he is. So today we're going to honor Johnny Bench, and we would like the little general to come up and just say a few words.
Thank you. Always great to be back, and congratulations to all of our teams who have represented Binger so well. And Barry, thank you for coming down. It's quite an honor to have you. And I know that it was 1970 was actually the parade, but Dean Crane's getting a lot older than we are, because Sharon Scott called me and said, well, you know, it is our 5-year class reunion, and it's up to you as president to put it together. And I said, well, as class president, I hereby appoint you and Sue to run this. You designate authority and allocate authority. And she called me back a couple of days later and said, we'd like everybody to put in $3 and bring a covered dish. I said, whoa, can you imagine the fun we're going to have? Who did you invite? We only graduated 21. We'd already lost like three people. And she said, well, it's people who went to school with us. And I said, well, what about people that knew us or represented or even heard of our name? We'll have a big party. And we also want to have that parade. And it's true, Frank was here. And I got to ride in Doc Pfeiffer. Doc Pfeiffer was a rich doctor like all the doctors. And he had the only convertible in town. And I got to ride in the back of the parade, and I had practiced my parade wave. You know, I'm all prepared. We got down there at Opus Gym, and we all lined up. They had the cotton trailers with the tissue dyed and everything else. And congratulations, MVP, Johnny Bench, and everything else. And indeed, we did. We took off uptown, and there was nobody there. Everybody was in the parade. Except for 3 drunks who came out of Mike's bar and said, "You're the man, Johnny!" And I felt good about that. And then we made a U-turn at the police station, and we waved at each other as we went back down the street. So that was our 5-year class reunion. Last night we had our 50th class reunion, which actually is 50 years and 2 days or 3 days since we graduated. And a lot of things have changed. Obviously, you know, our hairstyles have changed. I noticed some girls have changed the color of their hair. And, of course, being bald, it doesn't really bother me because the Lord gave everybody the same number of hormones. If they want to use them to grow hair, that's fine. I have a 5- and 9-year-old boy, so I like to think about that a little bit. But there's things that you can, it's constant. Coming back, seeing some of my old friends sing Crane, and I can talk about him because he still hasn't heard a word I've said since I've been here for the last 6 months. So I can talk about a lot of my friends, and I get to see Ronnie and Earl Maul last night, and Vernon Noakes was there, and we got to see Janice and Nelda and Sue and Sharon was there, and we had, I'll think of it because it's been a long time ago. When was it last night? Dorothea was there, and we had one other. I got pictures just in case. I need to look it up. No, but it's always special, and we had such reminiscing times. We're talking about some of the things that happened. I remember back in 1965, of course. Now that we're 50 years, and our thoughts should go out for just a slight moment to those 2 boys that lost their lives in our school bus wreck as we were coming back from Riverside. And it was really interesting that we were coming back. We would have stopped at the top of the hill to let off Spud Dumbo, and he wasn't there that day. And as we were going down the hill, and Lloyd Dempsey said, "We're out of brakes," and I said, "April Fool," because it was April 1st, and yet we didn't make the turn, and Harold and Billy were killed in that wreck, and I think we were all, to a certain extent, scarred for that, or become very phlegmatic, or very, I think we just, you know, became a whole different thing for us. And it was very difficult for the town at that time. So 50 years ago that happened, and so, you know, we'd like to remember them for just a little bit. As I drove around town, I thought about those people. But I'd like to think about some of the people that honored me by teaching me throughout our 12 years here at Binger. And Mrs. Rosser, in the 2nd grade, when she asked everybody what they wanted to be when they grew up, and you know, Sharon wanted to be a school teacher, Ronnie wanted to be an insurance salesman, and Sue wanted to be a postmaster, and Little wanted to sing country music, and I said, "I want to be a Major League Baseball player," and they all laughed. Imagine that, Major League Baseball player. In the 8th grade, in Mrs. Tate's class, she asked everybody what they wanted to be, and they all had the same answers, and then when it came to me, I said, "I want to be a Major League Baseball player," and they laughed again. I had gotten in school a year early, so I was only 5'2" in the 8th grade. Had the same size hands, same size feet, size 12, same size head with hair. And so if you can imagine what I looked like at that time, the only people scouting me was Barnum and Bailey. It wasn't a pretty sight. But I grew 9 inches the next couple of years, and when Mr. Rhodes asked everybody what they wanted to be in my junior year, they didn't laugh so much. So it's amazing. I always tell this story wherever I speak, because Sharon wanted to be a school teacher. She's superintendent of schools. She became the postmaster. Linda went to Nashville, country music, and Ronnie was an insurance salesman. And I made it to the major leagues. Kind of unbelievable to think that, you know, I think they were asking about whether I played basketball or baseball. When it was basketball season, we played basketball. When it was baseball season, so I never got to go to Chandler to go to the baseball schools. I never had those special times when I was always hitting indoor in the cage and getting special lessons and everything else. So it's amazing. And then we were pulling cotton and working in the peanut fields. So it's amazing that to think that all of this has happened. And so I think the thing that helped me the most, in 1966, I was in the Carolina League, and I started talking about the fear of failure. And it wasn't failing myself so much as all the people back in Caddo County, Binger, and throughout a lot of the state that opened up the newspapers every day and just wanted to see how Johnny did. So I never wanted to do that, and I never wanted to ever embarrass anybody in my family. Mom and Dad, just Ted and Katie were real special and loved throughout this town and wherever they went. So they were the guidance that I had, and it's the upbringing here in this town that made it so special and made me who I am. And so I want to thank the town of Binger, and it's always easy to come back. Chubb, it's great to see you. I mean, you got to be 107 by now, but it's. You were old when I came here. When I was 3, well, I get maybe not that bad. There are always special people to one of my superheroes, Del Carey and Hugh Haley, who took me to every game. They'd stick $5 down the aisle to go get something for them to eat, and I know they never asked for change, which was kind of special. So during the All-Star game in 1970, I flew them up for the All-Star game. I think I struck out 3 times. So they really didn't bring back a lot of good news when they came back. I sure the heck tried for them, but they were very, very special people. And Emory Compton, who coached us in Little League Baseball, and so many people that were a big part of my life. So I'm honored to have my jersey retired at this school and part of being a part of this class. And for you young people here today, I still like to brag about the fact that I was valedictorian. Sharon, you were salutatorian. Boy, she's still hot about that. And they always blame me because of Mrs. Lanham's class. And during typing, I made a mistake. I slapped the table, and everybody's typewriter would bounce. And they said they missed their grade because of that. It's good to plan things like that. But I wanted kids to know that the education is the most important thing, because I didn't know, you never know if you'll ever make it. So it's something to fall back on. Find something you love, and maybe it'll come true someday. So thank you all for being here today. And as we made a little bit of an announcement, this money is going to the baseball field. And it brings a lot of recognition with the museum and everything else. It'll bring a lot of people to come down here. We figure with the new museum, we'll bring in 8 to 10 people a year. I see Chubb's looking at me like that because he had 5 people from Puerto Rico the other day. So we've got 3 towns, 3 counties. It has bringing people in. And so when you think about, the prices that we're charging, that's wonderful. Don't be afraid. If you want to write extra to this cause, please do so, because it's going to raise a lot of those kids, like the state champions back here and some of these old guys back in our day that had a chance to participate in it and are quite proud of it. So enjoy and look forward to seeing the rest of you in just a little bit.
Sharon Diffin's going to come and make a presentation.
Okay, Johnny mentioned that last night we had our 50th class reunion, and I could spend some time telling you some stories about Johnny that you probably never heard. But today I will just take pleasure in giving you some information about the Johnny Bench Scholarship. The Johnny Bench Scholarship Fund was established in 1983 with a donation of $25,000 by the Cincinnati Reds as a tribute to Johnny's famed 17-year career with the team. In 1994 was the first year that Binger-only students applied for this scholarship. Since 1994, 89 students have received scholarships from the Johnny Bench Scholarship Foundation, totaling nearly $250,000. 15 students are currently pursuing their degrees, and 35 students have completed degrees in education, social work, criminal justice, agriculture, business, political science, medicine, dentistry, and engineering. Who would have thought 50 years ago I would be saying, thank you, John, for all that you've done for our students. Thank you.
David Gunter, teammate of Johnny Bench, is going to come and make the presentation.
Talking about scholarships, I've got to say that my son was one of the very first ones to receive one of these scholarships. Johnny, I'm going to give you a thanks for that too. Appreciate it. Without further ado, we came here to officially retire Johnny's number. Johnny, if you come up here now. We had, if you've seen the jersey that these guys have played in the last few years, what we played in wasn't quite that light and all of that. They had this special made, number 5, and we'd like for right now, Johnny's going to see if he can slip it on. If he can slip it on.
I'm trying to see the size.
This is going to be the last time that jersey number 5 from Bingaroni is to be worn. It'll then be displayed either down in the museum or if there is a school function, be displayed up here for all the other trophies and memorabilia are. There you go. Last time number 5 is going to be worn from Bingaroni. Thank you.
Never been anyone that left our state to go play baseball, personified the spirit of Oklahoma and the pride of Oklahoma more than Johnny.